I'm Brooke. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where I talk about all things knitting, crafting, creativity, and creative community. I'm so glad you're here. I would love to see more of you around here. If you want to hit that subscribe button, it would mean the world to me. And you can catch up with me on Instagram here at Brooke Loves Knitting. I started knitting about a year ago, and this YouTube channel is to document my journey as a relatively new knitter and to curate a place of complete non-judgment when it comes to creativity, crafts, and especially knitting. So I'm really glad you're here. So come along for the journey and I'll show you exactly step by step what happened in making this step-by-step pattern. I'm actually documenting this from the beginning forward and I'm having an interesting occurrence. So I've done a couple of rows of increases on my armholes, right? So I've got the two stitch markers marking my armhole and I have the neck ribbing. So if it was kind of correct, it's kind of like this, right? I have this much yarn left on this skein before I need to go to my next ball of yarn. And I really, knitting the rib for the neckline was actually quite easy for me. It's doing the increases, the make one right, make one left for the armholes that I found incredibly challenging. I probably started over 5 or 6 times. And it was really frustrating. And I think actually what I noticed is it's not even that I was necessarily doing it wrong. It's that I had never seen what it was supposed to look like before. So as it was happening, I was like, that's not right. Well, that's not right. But I had never knitted this kind of way before where you have your 2 in the middle and then, you know, your make one left, make one right to start the arms. So for me, I just was confused on what I was looking at. Are they perfect? No. Is this a YouTube channel about perfection in your crafts? I would hope you know by now that it's not. So what happened was, this is how far I am. I've got several rows left to do before I move on to another part of it. This yarn is Drops Nepal in colorway 6220, and I'm really loving how it feels. 65% wool, 35% alpaca, and it's just enough alpaca that I don't think it's too itchy, and I think it will be really nice in a sweater. But even if it's a little itchy, I think it'd be fine to wear a tank top or a t-shirt under it. I'm really excited to see how this continues to knit up. Again, I'm just quickly checking in on progress for my step-by-step sweater. And what is in my Knit Happens mug? Diet Coke, obviously. Okay, it's very cold. This is a heated blanket because it is not warm in New York anymore. Okay, so this is the first one that I started. I'm maybe a little, like 1/3 of the way through my increases. So you can see the shoulder seams are happening. And then, as I discussed on my last Whip Wednesday, I had a bunch of the Drops Nepal yarn. I was working on this pattern. I was working on it at my boyfriend's house. And then I left not the actual whip, but all of the yarn at his house. And he lives about an hour away from me. So I was like, well, not getting that today. So I started a second one on this gorgeous yarn that I got at Rhinebeck in October, and it's 85% wool, 15% mohair, and it's just like really nice wool. It has this like beautiful, like dense feeling to it. But this one I'm a little over halfway through my increases with. You can definitely feel the differences between these two yarns. The variety, like in the progress. This one's obviously a lot longer. I was actually able to try this one on a couple days ago, and it is fitting nicely so far. So there's that. Overall, I'm really glad to be making this pattern 2 at a time and to kind of have my 2 whips be the same. I know that that sounds like kind of boring, and I get that. I think it's really teaching me the make one right, make one left with confidence. So I'm really appreciating that about the way I've been kind of having a happy accident of working these 2 together. So I'm just gonna put on a show and keep working on them if you'll join me. Hi, I was away. I got a lot of knitting done on the trip because I was just passenger princess knitting while my boyfriend drove. And I got decently far in my second step-by-step sweater, which is with this blue yarn. The yarn is Drops Nepal. Look how great, look how flattering this angle is. Wow, YouTuber extraordinaire Brooke with amazing lighting and amazing angles of her face. Anyway, I got relatively far. I'm really proud of my progress, and I just wanted to share a quick update. So I'm about to divide the sleeves from the body. So hopefully, what do you guys think? What's today, Tuesday? Do we think in a week I could have a finished object? I think it's possible. I will say with the green one just got weird. It got boxy and weird. I think part of it is that I kept it on 100 centimeter cable when I was knitting the rest of the body and the ribbing at the end. So I think that's part of why it got so like huge. But I also was able to decrease the blue size a little bit by 1 size. So hopefully when I'm just knitting straight down in the yoke, it's not quite as large. Right now I'm on 100 centimeter needles with the blue one. But as I divide the body from the sleeves, I think I'm going to try going back to smaller circumference of needles. So hopefully I will have a positive update next time I'm back. Wish me luck. Okay, yes, I'm still in my pajamas, but I just had to show you guys this update. The lighting is not that good in my apartment, but here's where I'm at with the step-by-step sweater. Split off for the sleeves, and she says stop knitting when you're 6 to 8 centimeters, I believe, away from like where you want your ribbing to be. So in theory, I could like rib this much and have it end here, but I do think I want the body of the sweater to be a bit longer. Although it's hard to say because I'm about 5'1", 5'2", so I do like things to fit a little bit more cropped. So maybe I'll knit another. I guess I also have to account for for like blocking too. So like if I block it, it might fit a little longer. I don't know. So I just am feeling like I'm almost done with the body. I will say, I think the second sleeve is turning out better than the first sleeve. Sorry, I don't have you propped up on something, but I only picked up the recommended amount of stitches for this armpit, so I have the like small gaps that come with only picking up 6 stitches because it was my first time knitting a sleeve, so I wanted to do it the way the pattern called for. And then the ribbing is just kind of like fine. It's a little meh. It got a little weird at some parts, but it is what it is. Versus with this sleeve, I just used my intuition to pick up the amount of stitches that I thought made more sense to me. And then I did a couple of rounds of decreases to get it back to the proper amount of stitches to knit in the round. And now I have much more of a seamless armpit. So I'm kind of curious if they're going to fit differently. Hopefully they feel the same, but I feel like I'm learning a lot about picking up stitches from this process. So I'm grateful for that. It really, really snowed here yesterday, which means it's the perfect day to focus on some knitting. You know, it's almost the end of the year, and I'm thinking about end of year goals, and one of my biggest goals this year in 2025 was to create a YouTube channel. So I just want to say the deepest of thank yous for being here with me. I'm really grateful I started this journey, and I feel like my knitting community has already expanded so much, so I really appreciate you being here and taking the time to watch these videos. I really hope you're getting something out of them, and it means a lot to me to share my knitting journey with you all online. Okay, back to the regular scheduled programming. Also, I just thought I'd share that this is what my couch looks like when I get into a serious knitting mode. It looks like I'm a complete hoarder who lives on my couch. And you know what, maybe I am, but we've got stash yarn that I was researching what projects I want to do with it last night. Snacks
obviously, phone charger, heat pad for my neck, scrunchie, TV remote, extra knitting needle, and tape measure. This is the silver bowl I normally keep my working yarn in so it doesn't spin off the couch, but my working yarn's over there right now. Heated blanket, obviously, it's December in New York. Watching YouTube videos, current whip, more stash yarn, and some knitting books. Coffee, water, more water, tissues. I'm just equipped to stay on this couch for hours at this point, and I'm not mad about it.
Hello! It's the Saturday after Christmas. I hope you had a lovely holiday if you celebrate Christmas, if you celebrate Hanukkah. I hope you have a beautiful New Year that's coming up. It snowed quite a bit in the Hudson Valley where I live last night. I haven't gone out to shovel yet. I will this afternoon. But this morning I'm just focusing on finishing up my step-by-step sweater. I think I'm going to be done with it today, which, like, famous last words, I've now said that like 5 times. But I actually think today is the day. I'm almost done with the second sleeve, the last sleeve, and I'm on my second to last row of decreases. I'm almost done with that set of decreases, so then I just need to do the last row of arm sleeve knitting decreases and then the ribbing. So it's 10 a.m. So maybe I can have it blocked by this evening. So the first time I folded the sweater in half and rolled it over the sleeves a couple minutes ago. That's when I realized something messed up, because this arm was as long as the arm that was finished, and I was like, oh no. So now this looks about, cut off where the ribbing on the other one started. So I'm gonna rib. It's almost 3 inches of ribbing, but see, my ribbing is just not that neat. I don't know. So I'd love to do some more sweaters that just end in stockinette, because I really like the way that looks. So I'm gonna follow up this by switching over to my smaller needle, which I believe is a 4.5 millimeter needle, and knit one around and then knit the ribbing. And then this sweater, all I'll have to do is weave in ends and block. So hopefully next time you see me, I'm wearing it. It is 8:30 in the morning on Sunday, December 28th, and she's off the needles. I can't believe it. I'm gonna weave in some ends and then we're gonna block her. The time has come for me to talk about my completed step-by-step sweater with you, my friends, and I couldn't be more grateful that it's done and that I get to talk about it now. This has been a long time coming. I cast this on, I believe, November 3rd. As of today, it is December 30th. Quite a long time. However, I did, as you will see, attempt to knit 2 step-by-step sweaters simultaneously, and one of them kind of ended up failing or not working. I don't really believe in failing when it comes to fiber arts, crafting, and creativity. Like, are we learning? Are we having fun? Are we growing? Are we making community? That's all that really matters to me. I learned a lot making this sweater, and I do believe that I had to create this green one first to understand what I needed to understand in order to construct this blue one. Now, this yarn I got at Rhinebeck 2025. I'm not exactly sure what kind of yarn it is because it was in a sale bin, unlabeled. I had 2 skeins of it, and I was taking a risk with 2 skeins of yarn. 3 skeins of the exact same yarn in white, so I think I kind of figured maybe if I make the striped version, or maybe if I make the sleeves white or the ribbing white, I could pull off 2 skeins of green, but I just ended up seeing how much I could make with the green and really used it as a practice round. And I think of it as a giant gauge swatch. It was a giant practice round of trying to understand the skill sets of make one right, make one left, ribbing, picking up stitches, all those things that you need to complete the sweater pattern. This will live on. I'm going to frog it and turn it into a hat and maybe, you know, mittens or something little, depending on how much I have left over. This yarn will live on and it will have a good home eventually, but I had to come back to the blue sweaters. So during this project, I learned more about how to join a new ball of yarn, and I would say I still don't really understand how to do it. I ended up, when I was joining a couple of new balls of yarn, you can see here that it's totally noticeable. There's weird lumps where I joined that yarn, and that's okay. I ended up eventually learning that because there's wool in the drops Nepal, I could kind of wet felt the strands together instead of having to join them in a more traditional way. I know that's not necessarily the recommended method, but it did really work for me to create a seamless finish. And I just found that I was joining another ball of yarn and ended up somehow accidentally like casting on another stitch when I was doing that. I think when I was just like wrapping the yarn around the needle and trying to, it didn't work for me. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way of joining a ball of yarn that's going to be more seamless for me going forward besides just wet felting, because I won't exclusively be knitting with wool, so I'll have to see about that. Another thing that I really learned in this pattern that I'm glad I had the chance to learn more about is picking up stitches and knitting sleeves. So this pattern, for the size I knit, which we'll talk about in a minute, I had to pick up 6 stitches in the armpit. And you'll see here that on one side, I picked up the recommended amount, 6 stitches, and there's kind of a little bit of a hole and a little bit of a gap, and I probably should sew that. And then on the other side, I worked more intuitively, and instead I picked up way more stitches, probably double the amount, like 12 or so. And then I just did a decrease round around those stitches. And I found that that ended up working much better for me, because when I was done, there was a seamless finish to the sleeve. It just involved a little bit more tracking of where I was at with picking up stitches to make sure I was decreasing the right amounts. And I think that made the one sleeve look a little bit nicer. I also made a mistake when making the sleeves. When I knit the second sleeve, I accidentally knit it too long before adding the ribbing, and I ended up preferring how it looked just being stockinette all the way down. So I don't love the way my ribbing turns out, and I think there's a couple things I could work on. I need to improve my purling technique, and I did size down 1 full needle size when knitting the ribbing. I think going forward I might try going down like 2 sizes of needle just to see if that makes my ribbing a little bit more neat and clean. If you have any recommendations for making my ribbing a little bit neater, I would love that. I did love the bind off method, and the pattern designer Florence didn't exactly name what bind off method this was. Purl the second stitch in, purl the first stitch, pull it off the needle, go through the middle of the 2 stitches that remain, knit the second stitch, knit the first stitch, and pull it off the needle over and over and over again. I do feel like it gave it a very clean cast off edging that was still elastic and very comfortable. But I also know that I'm gonna attempt another step-by-step sweater pretty soon. I ordered the yarn for it already. For this neckline, I knitted the recommended amount of centimeters for the taller neckline, and what I'm gonna do next time is knit a bit of a smaller neckline and then not do any ribbing on the arms or the bottom of the jumper. And that's just because I love the clean finish of the stockinette. So I'm not sure if I'll do the same bind off that she recommends, because it might look a little bit too textured with just finishing in stockinette. So I'm gonna have to find a bind off for finishing in stockinette that looks smooth. So that's something I will try for the next pattern, as well as I might try some short row shaping as well, because she has optional German short rows, and I want to have the opportunity to try to learn German short row shaping. I'm a little nervous, but I think that's a good sign that it's something that I should give a try to. And I think German short rows will obviously just kind of up level what kind of projects I'm able to work on. Overall, I would say I had a lot of fun knitting this project. I was a little bit confused, frustrated, and had to try again a couple of times with both the neckline ribbing and then the make one right, make one left. I did not understand that at first. But this sweater taught me a lot of basic skills that I'm really grateful to know now. And I would say it improved my tension and just overall my confidence as a knitter. I have since cast on another project, and I can feel myself working through that project a lot more quickly, just because I feel like I know what I'm doing more as a knitter. So I highly recommend working with this pattern. And the YouTube video that accompanies it, I think is wonderful and so helpful, especially for beginners working on their first sweater. Thank you again for following along my knitting journey here on YouTube. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok at Brooke Loves Knitting. If you've knit this pattern, I would love for you to comment below and tell me how it went for you, or just tell me what's on your needles now. I love talking to you guys here on YouTube and on Instagram and TikTok. It means a lot to be developing this creative community together. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.